Oh, okay. Hey everybody, this is Johnny Five Pizza Guy. Today we have our first guest and our first interview. Go ahead and say hi.
Hey everybody, my name is Thierry Anglade, or Thierry Anglade for short. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me, Johnny. How's it going?
You're welcome. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you for this interview.
You're welcome. And so, moving on with the questions. Who is Thierry?
Thierry, I'm an engineer, launch processing engineer, preferably works with Jacobs at NASA, and my job is to build a rocket, process the rocket, and launch it. And I'm originally from Haiti, Port-au-Prince. Moved here back in 2004, and now I've gone through high school, college, the whole thing, and now I'm here. And for whatever reason, Johnny Five Pizza Guy wants to interview me today because I work at NASA. So I'm just looking forward to it.
Hmm, Me too. So, did you ever want a different job growing up?
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to go into cartooning, motion pictures, graphics design mostly, but that didn't play out too well because my parents, being from the Caribbean, they didn't think that was a viable option. And so, since I was good with math and I was also good with arts, I decided, you know what, it's fine. I'll just go do the math and just go through engineering. And so, I didn't always want to be an engineer, but yeah, that's where I'm at today, man. That's what I'm doing.
Now that you've been working in the industry, what do you love about NASA?
Having worked out there for 8 years, what I really have gathered from being at NASA and working at a company that's been working for them, I've been on multiple contracts. I really like their collaborative nature. I really love their commitment to human beings and wanting us to be better. I really love the fact that everything that they're doing is human focused, advancement of the human species. And they have a slew of programs. We're probably going to talk about at the end of this interview how you actually get in there and the type of programs they've created for people to join them. But also, we'll discuss further on what are some of the things that we're actually working on at Kennedy. So it's been I just love the collaborative nature. I just love the advancement of human race. I just love the idea and everything that we stand for. And that just inspires me to wake up every day to go do this work.
It's good. Tell me about your best experience during your time at NASA's Kennedy Space Center.
There is no better time for me at Kennedy that I can remember than November 16, 2022. Um, the launch of Artemis 1. I was there at 1:45 a.m. I went to work that day, went back home, and I told my wife, and she's like, "You're gonna go out there?" I'm like, "Yes." It's an hour drive for me to go to work every day, and I still do it. I'll do it gladly every time. I've been doing it for 8 years now. And the thing of it is, that was just there's nothing more special than having seen that rocket launch. It was you just had to be there to experience the sound, the vibration, the pressure in the air, and not just you as a person, not just me experiencing it, but being among others who are so passionate about this whole project, this whole Artemis. That day was just wonderful. It was just wow. It was an experience, and it inspires every time I think about it. So yeah, that was my best experience at NASA for sure.
That sounds really fun. Like I would like to be there.
Oh yeah.
How does the International Space Station, ISS, stay in space?
So the ISS stay in space. Okay, so for this question, I'm gonna use a little mock-up here. Shamefully gonna show a golf ball instead of my Earth and Moon that I have at work, but we'll make it work easily, right? So one of the things that you want to think about is you want to think about how do you get out of the Earth, right? And a really cool example we can find online, and people talk about it. Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about it in great detail. If you were to have a cannon, a massive cannon at the pole of the Earth right here, and if you were to say shoot something up, right? If you shoot it up,
Mhm.
because gravity is strong, it's gonna pull it right back.
Yep.
Now, if you can shoot that thing up at an angle fast enough, what starts to happen is as you are going away and gravity's pulling you back, you're going to be pulled back at an arc, at a circular motion, as opposed to back straight. So now you're coming back at a circular motion. And what's happening is you're sort of like coming back and you're falling at the edge of the planet. You're not falling in, you're falling at the edge and you're turning around and you start circling. That is the orbit. So the International Space Station uses the same concept in space. So what it's doing is every time it's moving really, really fast, it's falling at the edge of the Earth as the Earth is rotating, like so. And it's just falling every time. It goes around and falling and falling and falling. But over time, the International Space Station does fall back to the Earth. So what they do is, as we get closer and closer and closer and closer, they have thrusters that they can apply to go back to a proper orbit. So it is deorbiting slowly, but it is also reorbiting itself back every time, so it can keep itself in space. So that's how the International Space Station actually stays in space, using that concept I explained, using the thrusters and keeping a circular elliptical motion around the Earth. It moves extremely fast.
It's that's very interesting. What is the difference between a moon and a planet?
So a moon orbits a planet, and a planet orbits a star. And also, there's a couple of other characteristics. Usually, a moon does not have an atmosphere. Usually, not always. And then it also does not. It also does not have another body that necessarily orbits it. But there are some exceptions. So the moon, for example, that we have is orbiting us, and as it's orbiting us, because we are orbiting the sun, it ends up orbiting the sun as it orbits us, like this, around
Mhm.
and around it goes. So yeah, the moon is a moon usually has less characteristics than a planet. A planet orbits a star, a moon orbits a planet, and there are hundreds of moons in our solar system. There's a lot of them, especially and between Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Jupiter. There are so many moons that exist. There are small little planets that we haven't really named. There's a lot out there. So yeah.
It's cool. Um, the speed of light can't escape a black hole, then can the speed of shadow escape a black hole?
So the first thing I got to give you is we have to change our perspective on this idea that shadow and light are different, right? Shadow and light are of the same uh, idea. Essentially, shadow is the absence of light. Is when you don't have light that shadow appears. But shadow is really the natural state, and then when you bring light, shadow goes. So essentially, light and shadow travel at the same speed. So shadow cannot necessarily escape a black hole per se, because a black hole is not this object that you're reflecting on, if that makes sense. So that's why shadow and light are both the same coin but different side of that coin, is what it is. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Mhm.
Cool, cool.
So, who is your role model and why?
So I don't have shamefully I don't have a role model, a single person that I look up to. I didn't grow up with that idea of role model. But what I do have is I have experiences of people, and I have certain people that I have listened to what they've gone through that have inspired me. Because ultimately, what a role model is an inspiration story, right? A role model is a person that inspires you, moves you to make you do things the way you want to do things. It gives you that motivation, gives you that power to want to get up and go do something because you look up to that person and you'd say to yourself, well, what would that person tell me if they saw me just dragging along and not doing what I'm doing? And so in your mind, you create this idea, right? And so a role model is more of an experience for me, and that's how I define it. So I have multiple people that have had experiences in life that have shared them across the internet that I'm very, very, very fond of. I really like Denzel Washington's story. His biography speaks to me a lot because he went to school, didn't make it, just like I kind of didn't make it through college, and then he sort of like went back and got into the arts and theaters and did this thing. Jim Carrey, Jim Carrey is very inspiring man. Les Brown is another person I'm really, really fond of as well. I do listen to a lot of philosophers. I do love their stories and their biographies, what they went through to go from failure to success and turning that success into something for the community to look at and use. And then finally, I also have a specific musician that I looked up to going to college, just listening to his story and what he went through. It absolutely changed my life, or it gave my life a continuous purpose to keep doing what I'm doing because there are people out there that are so unfortunate, their situations are bad, and they do everything in their power to get out of that situation. And to me, that's what inspires me. That is my role model. My role model is the story of failure to success, is really what it is. And that drives me.
Hmm. Did you ever believe in your wildest dreams that your career would be this awesome?
No, I did not. My wildest dreams had a completely different idea about my career as it is right now. When you're in school, you have zero idea what your career is going to look like. You're in school, you're just studying, you just kind of have an idea. You're like, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. And then you get to the career and you start working and you're like, this is nothing like what I thought. This is completely different. And then you sort of, for me at least, what I've discovered for myself is going to school wasn't about training me for a career. Going to school became a opportunity to teach myself how to learn things, how to perceive things differently. So more like a tool to use in life so that I can be better at whatever it is that I choose to do. And that's what I've learned from college. And that's why when I went back to school to finish school, I applied myself 100% every single day because I realized that. It takes a little bit to realize that. I hope it doesn't take anybody failure to realize that. But if it does, don't ever forget that failure is when you quit. Failure is not when you fail. When you fail, you just missed the mark and you can try again and again and again. And that is my story. That's what happened to me, and that's how I ended up working at NASA.
Very inspiring. So, how exciting is it to you to launch a rocket into outer space?
Excitement is really just the overview. It's the tip of the iceberg. There is so much below that for me. It is nerve wracking. There is so many people involved in building a rocket. And if I can give you a quick synopsis, the um, the SLS, the Space Launch System that we use over there at Kennedy to launch, that we're going to be launching men back to the moon with. You have the Orion's capsule that's by Lockheed Martin. You got the ICPS by ULA. ULA is a conglomerate, a collaboration between Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and the Air Force. And then you have the core stage. The core stage is made by Boeing, and then you've got the solid rocket motors on the side of the rocket. Those are made by Northrop Grumman. And then you have the four engine at the bottom. They call them RS-25 engine. Those are by Aerojet Rocketdyne. There's so many companies involved. And then there's my company. We're responsible for taking all these pieces when they come together, and then we attach them. Just like Legos, we have an entire process to attach all these things together and really process it, test it, and launch it. So launching something that involves the best example I can give you is I don't know if you've done any group projects yet in school, but when you're gonna do group projects, there's always one kid who's not kind of doing what they're supposed to, and you kind of have to pick up the slack over there, or there's always something you got to do extra. There's a lot going on, and there's so much collaboration that needs to happen. So launching a rocket is not just exciting, it's nerve-wracking, it is inspiring, it is adrenaline inducing, it is just this it's a force of nature because what a rocket is, it's a controlled bomb that's flying into space. So when you have a controlled bomb that's flying into space, something that can explode at any given time, it makes you very nervous. And it's even more nerve-wracking when there's people on top of that bomb and it's moving up into space. And you have to make sure, pray to God, and know your stuff and be ready because you and the engineering that you've put together to launch this rocket has to work. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it is great. It is amazing to launch a rocket.
Hmm. Huh. That sounds like hmm. Launching a rocket sounds like it would be like kind of while it's also exciting, I'm sure it would be like almost kind of scary because you're like in your
Absolutely.
mind you're probably questioning like, wait, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if something goes wrong?
Yep. Yep, and that's why when launching a rocket, there's an entire process around it. There's teams. See, the rocket is not. My team is only responsible for powering up the rocket. We process it, we put it together, but we also are responsible for powering it up, right? And you have other teams that's responsible for the fuel. It uses liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. That team is responsible for getting that fuel into the rocket. You have teams that are responsible for the engines. Are the engines working correctly? Are we ready? Can we do that? There's different operations. This is a layer upon layer upon layer. When we're getting ready for go for load, we're talking hours. This rocket's been sitting on the pad for at least a day or two, and we're getting ready to load it with cryogenic liquid. Cryogenic meaning they are so the liquid is made out of a gas, and the only way that liquid becomes gas is because it's brought down to temperatures that are insane temperatures, way below zero. We're talking negative 300 degrees Celsius to negative 285 degrees Celsius. And then you have the team responsible for the solid rocket motors. You have the team responsible for avionics, the flight path. So the rocket is not just light it up and let it launch. It has computers on board. It has to go to the correct orbit because you will lose an astronaut if you put them in the wrong orbit and you can't return to Earth. Or they're returning to Earth and they land incorrectly, right? So there's a lot of calculations. There's a lot going on, a lot of teams put together. So yeah, it is not just it is scary. There's a lot that rides onto launching a rocket. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, hmm, what is your favorite thing about outer space?
The mystery of it, the possibility of life out there, it really just not only is it massive, but there's so much. There's so much in space, I think. And that really, really, really inspires me. That I love. It drives me thinking about how small I am and how massive space is. Always inspires me to remember, let me do my part where I am here on Earth. So yeah, that's really what I love about space. I don't have a whole lot to say about that except for the mystery and how amazing it is. Space is amazing in my opinion. It's hard, but it's amazing.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the mystery is pretty cool about space, though. Okay, so how has NASA impacted your life?
NASA has impacted my life in many ways. Like I said before, I wanted to do arts. I really only cared about graphics design and stuff like that. But having worked at the Kennedy Space Center and working at NASA, seeing how they impact communities of people, they have so many programs for so many different people. There are so many opportunities they create in the communities they're a part of. Kennedy here in Florida, Johnson out in Houston. You have Marshalls, and then you've got JSC. All of the JPL. They just always are creating an environment of growth for everyone around them, and they always bring back something to the community. And so, in my community here in Florida, we are inspiring kids just like you. There are kids just like you that are being inspired every single day to be part of the space industry because space is the future. We are building an infrastructure to space because our goal is to eventually be able to be a spacefaring civilization. So that impacts my life here because not only is it made it possible for me to have a roof over my head because of the job that I have, but also has helped me participate for the first time. I didn't. This is an impact to my life, right? You would have never known me or talked to me if I didn't work at NASA. You're looking for people who work at NASA because you're interested in getting the knowledge and meeting people who work at NASA. And so this right here, this interview is an impact, a direct, real, very real impact on my life right here, right now. That I'm participating with you so we can inspire a community of people and be part of the entire industry as well. So this is how it's impacted my life.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, yeah. What does it take to be hired by NASA?
It takes a little bit. It actually takes a little bit to get hired by NASA. But I do suggest that you look first at their NASA Pathways internship program, and that is where a lot of students starts to their journey in becoming a NASA engineer. Just understand that NASA being a government entity, they have a limited amount of availability for seats of what they have, right? They don't just hire people to hire people. There is a set amount of people that work for NASA, and then these, unless a person retires or they have a position created for it, you're not just going to find it that way. But they do everything they can to train you because they invest in you through the pathway program to help you be an engineer in the future. And usually they do a lot of direct hire straight out of the pathway program. That's for any jobs like engineering, science, physics, and stuff like that. So that's how you go about getting into NASA, in my opinion.
Okay, that sounds decently easy.
It sounds decently easy, but it's a process. It's gonna take a few years, right? You got to be 16 years old. You have to do well in school. They are looking for exceptional people. You have to do well in school. They are always looking for people who know how to learn quickly. People who so essentially what NASA is looking for is for people that are going to make a difference in the world, people that are going to impact the industry, people who are going to become something important for them in that industry specifically. So doing well in school is very synonymous to getting hired at NASA, and doing well in school also help a lot with that. So I always recommend it sounds easy at first, but remember you got to fight yourself in school, doing the things you don't like and doing well at them, and also doing the things you like and doing well at them. So being an exceptional individual is the first thing in mind. It is easy as long as you are committed to one thing, and that is the love of space, the love of science, and the love of people. If you have that, if you have those three things, you will end up at NASA, no doubt.
So, what advice can you give people who want to become astronauts for NASA?
So if you want to be an astronaut, there's an astronaut program. I recommend you get through school. Once again, everything goes back to school. Get through your bachelor's degree and definitely go straight into your master's program. But I also recommend outside of the scholarly stuff you have to do, I definitely recommend that you focus on developing yourself as a unique human being who, when you walk into a room, you are not only recognized, but you're not just another person in the room. When someone talks to you, there's something unique about you that appeals to them. Because astronauts are called to be the best of us, right? Astronauts are to be the best of us humankind. And so therefore, they're always looking for people that have a very interesting, diverse background. So if you say, for example, you're really good at music, but you're really good with engineering, and you bring music and engineering together, or music and art and then space, and you connect space to it as a unique person, yeah, that NASA will definitely love people like that. They always looking for unique individuals, people who will always bring something fresh to the table they've never had. That's what I recommend. And if you're interested in going to the military, um, the Air Force is a great place to start. You could go to the Army as well, the Navy, whichever one you choose. But the Air Force is usually a great space because they're always looking for pilots, and so that's always another place you could always look at to be a pilot. And you can end up an astronaut as well on that route.
That's interesting. Well, thank you very much for your time. Um, see, Thierry?
That's here. Yeah, you
Thierry,
got
Thierry.
it. You got it. Yeah, man. Thanks for bringing up this interview. Thank you for making the opportunity available for me to talk with you today. I cannot thank you enough. It pleases me. It really pleases me to see kids your age being already enthusiastic and ready and wanting to be a part of the space industry and wanting to know about it at your age. There's so much for you in the future if you continue this path. There's a lot available to you. And it's just amazing to see. It pleases me and it just drives me. Once again, I'm gonna go back to work after I come back from Japan, which I'm gonna go on a long trip this month. When I come back from Japan, I'm gonna remember I had an interview with Johnny Five Pizza Guy, who made an interview with me because he's interested in space and he's really young. What grade are you in right now, Johnny? If you don't mind me asking.
Siths.
Really young. It's amazing that you're already disinterested. So I absolutely love seeing it. It inspires me to know that the generation that's coming after me is already into it. Because I wasn't into it at all. When I was at your grade level, I was watching cartoons. I didn't care about space. That wasn't the thing I was interested in. I was just watching cartoons. You're doing interview on a Saturday morning. That is amazing. That is amazing. So thank you again for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you again for coming on, and hope to see you next time.
Of course. I'll see you next time.
All right.